Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, Elanco begins work on a transformative project in Indy that will have ripple effects throughout the area. Engage Indiana comes to the Pocket City. A Hoosier chiropractor becomes a coffee entrepreneur. Solar power energizes a small Hoosier high school. A Pacers legend heads into retirement. A packed summer concert series is set for Indiana. And we talk about the week's top stories with our panel of insiders. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Work has begun on Elanco's new global headquarters at the former GM stamping plant. We first hear from Elanco President and CEO Jeff Simmons talking to Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick about the transformative project. Then reporter Mary Rachel Redmond takes a look at how the new headquarters will impact the near west side of Indianapolis.
Okay, Jeff, we're really in kind of the heart of what will be your new headquarters, and I think it's interesting because obviously you have the beautiful shot of the downtown Indianapolis skyline, but this old structure here is going to kind of be used as part of it, right?
Yeah, 11 years ago, as we just heard today, this was closed. This was the GM manufacturing plant. This was the stamping plant, the line actually, and we're going to actually keep about a third of that at the end, and that'll actually be a multi-use facility, and White River Park will be around it. It'll be glassed in, and that's a place where we'll hold scientific forums and conventions and bigger meetings and facility, to use for multiple things. So absolutely.
You talked in your remarks today about this not being a facility, but really more of a part of a movement.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
There's two kind of meanings to building, and this is not about the building, the noun, but building the verb. We are building a lot of things here. We're building the next era of Elanco. We're building a post-COVID headquarters that's going to have amenities and top research facilities and an incubator for new companies from High Alpha and others. It's building the west side, as we said. It's connecting the valley to the circle of the city, changing the whole skyline of this. And then we're building this epicenter for animals to allow innovators to come here and start companies to reach the world's animals.
You talk about an epicenter and you hear phrases like the Silicon Valley of animal health and a hub for innovation. Talk about that vision for what this will be on the campus and then beyond.
COVID showed the world how important animals are. We believe in Elanco, making animals' lives better makes life better, from protein to pets, and we saw that, right? And so what we've seen is our industry, it's less mature than the pharmaceutical industry. So when you look at funding, when you look at models and partnering, we don't have that. So what Elanco has is the ability to reach over 100 countries, have access to animals in over 100 countries, 19 species of animals. But what we need is to incubate innovation, incubate ideas. And so the epicenter is the whole idea is to take and allow startups and capital to come here. And then it allows Indianapolis to actually launch companies in the area of animals to reach these world's animals.
Yeah, I know a big part of it, too, is this is an extension of downtown Indianapolis across the river for the first time, really, to the west side here. So the impact beyond the campus confines, if you will, is potentially substantial.
This is an amazing side of the city. I've been living in Indiana in Indianapolis for 30 years, and until we started looking at this site, first, you don't find 50 acres in downtown cities anywhere in the country much anymore. The ability to build this, and I say to this future workforce, this is a destination, not an obligation. We're going to make this a place. We all know you want community. Even at work, you want to collaborate. Some of our best friends are, who we work with. So make this an opportunity to come here with amenities. We're going to have a state park in our front yard, and the ability to have top laboratories, an incubator, a lot more open space. Today's office we think is a relic. This is not going to be about cubicles. This is going to be about collaborating community to drive competitive advantage for our company.
And I know you feel and others feel this will be a talent attractor for Elanco. But beyond that, as people see this campus when they come into Indianapolis, the impact it can have on talent attraction in the region.
Absolutely. And a call out here to the governor and the mayor and Representative Carson and across the board. As I said today, I was proud to be a Hoosier watching this come together. There is a oneness in this city and this state There's an excitement with CICP and Agronovus around agriculture and animal agriculture, Corteva's headquarters. So there's the opportunity here with this to build a campus and a destination that's going to add to the city, but it's going to add to the pull of talent and people to say, I believe this is going to be one of the cities noted in 5 years to say this is a destination in this post-COVID world. Come and have an amazing lifestyle and living here in Indianapolis.
Very good. Well, Elanco's move to the near west side of Indianapolis will no doubt breathe new life into an area that has been really one of the most industrialized areas of the city for many decades. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for growth and development. Mary Rachel Redmond hit the streets of the Valley to get the pulse of the people who live there and their hopes for the future.
For 80 years, the GM stamping plant stood on the west banks of the White River, the epicenter for jobs. In its heyday, close to 5,600 people, many using these steps, walked in here every day making a living cranking out auto parts for GM vehicles. But times in manufacturing changed. And by 2011, when the plant closed, only 650 people worked there.
This is all the remains of the old GM stamping plant. Rusted remnants like this, literally pieces of a bygone era. But this project could reverse decades of decay.
Businesses like Carniceria Guanajuato, a Mexican market and restaurant, that are hoping Elanco's new campus will pump new life into the area.
I hope they can get more customers. It's really a good thing.
We're going to bring not just an office and a campus, but we're going to bring families here. And whether it's helping with things in the area, we've got big hunger causes, therapy dogs, but being able to be part of the West Side, from living here to being involved in the community to engaging with our citizens that are around here is, to me, it's exciting.
Elanco's plan includes more than just a sparkling new building that will change the Indianapolis skyline. Also in the works, more trees, trails, and a brand new bridge connecting the west side to the zoo, White River State Park, and downtown Indy.
I see 15 years from now that we find this to be not only our neighborhood, but our community, and it's blended together. And we're just part of the landscape and the skyline of the west side, the Valley. And the Valley being known more, I think bringing back a lot of the history and the legacy of the Valley to me. There's amazing communities and people, and the West Side has a little bit of its own culture, and I'm excited about that as well.
A new day for Elanco, for Indianapolis, and for the people living and working in the Valley.
Brainstorming big business ideas in the Pocket City. We go inside our first Engage Indiana event in Evansville, where the name of the game is jobs, investment, and talent attraction. Mayor Lloyd Winnecke joined us with more.
Well, Mayor, certainly air service is very critical to any emerging, growing economy. I know there are challenges here with the loss of direct routes to both Chicago and Detroit.
Yeah, it's been really devastating for a lot of our corporate citizens who need to get vendors and customers into Evansville. So they're having to fly through Charlotte, Atlanta, or Dallas, which are all great connections, but it does pose a challenge. Luckily, the state has been a really good partner in trying to get the airlines to get those flights restored sooner rather than later.
So are you confident that something can be done to get those?
Yeah, the airlines like these flights, these routes. They've told us that they don't want to. They're not walking away forever. They're walking away from now. But the fact of the matter is, American has added another daily flight to Dallas, which is good. So that's 3 a day. Delta has is bringing in larger aircraft now on its Atlanta flight, and we know our flight from Evansville to Chicago is among the strongest in America's whole service area. So we know we're a good hub, but because of the pilot shortage and aircraft shortage, it's an issue right now.
A lot going on, and a lot has been going on in downtown Evansville, the health center, among others, driving people downtown, bringing people downtown. As you look going forward, a lot of talk, a lot of focus on maybe the riverfront being kind of that next frontier. Right. Would that be an accurate description?
It is accurate. We've cast a really bold vision for the future for Evansville's riverfront. In fact, it's called River Vision. And if you put a pencil to it, it's probably a $260 or $70 million plan, but we realize it's going to have to be done in phases. everything from really attractive mixed-use developments right on the riverfront to workforce housing on the riverfront to a different flow of traffic on Riverside Drive. So it's a bold, ambitious plan, but we think if we don't cast the plan or the vision, we'll never get to a better situation on the riverfront.
And part of the things happening here in Evansville, certainly quality of life, quality of place projects. The zoo is one. The new aquatic center, I know, has been a real driver as well.
The Deaconess Aquatic Center is one of, both it and the Kinney family Penguins of Patagonia exhibit opened at Mesker Park Zoo within weeks of each other just last October. But the Aquatic Center is so phenomenal. We've landed the NCAA Division II National Swimming and Diving Championships for 2025. Lily King told me when we walked into the competition pool on the day of the dedication, she looked around and she said, Mayor, there are a lot of D1 programs that don't have a facility like this, so we're really proud of that. Our goal is to be an attraction for our sports tourism effort, but also to help grow swimming among young people in the city.
And I know so many of these projects connect to talent and the need to keep talent, but also attract talent here. Talent 2025, I know, is a big initiative.
Yeah, Talent 2025 is a regional initiative that is really designed about growing population and making sure our workforce is ready for new technology in all industry sectors. It aligns perfectly with READY, which is why we were one of the recipients of a $50 million READY grant for our region. So we're hyper-focused on all those efforts.
Evansville Mayor Lloyd Winnicky at the first of several statewide Engage Indiana events that Inside Indiana Business and the IBJ are putting on around Indiana. So first, Southwest Indiana will also be in Fort Wayne, South Bend, and then Indianapolis later this year.
It's all about the beans for a Hoosier chiropractor turned coffee entrepreneur. Life Boost Coffee is on the path to become one of the fastest growing companies in the Midwest. CEO Charles Livingston spoke with Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
Let's go back to the beginning, though. Tell us first how Life Boost got its start.
Absolutely. Well, it literally just fell in my lap. At the time, I had a supplement company. This small farm in Nicaragua was taking my supplements, and they loved the supplements. They wanted to put in the coffee. I said, no, it's a terrible idea. The herbs are too bitter, but I love coffee. Send me your coffee. And it was honestly one of the best cups of coffee I ever had. I started doing research and I found a gap in the market for healthy coffee. As you know, coffee is the third most drank beverage in the world. But that also means it's a cash crop, so it's heavily sprayed with pesticides. Being a chiro by trade, I care a lot about my health and the health of others. So that was the gap that I saw. And so your body bioaccumulates toxins like that. And since I drink it every day, I didn't want that to happen. It's kind of like a death by a thousand cuts, right? So it's not that just one cup of coffee that you have, it's, drinking them over time. So I was like, it's time for a clean cup of coffee.
All right, a clean cup of coffee. I feel like it's this space where kind of coffee junkies and health nuts, it's kind of this convergence of those two things. So you mentioned some of the health benefits that makes your coffee healthier. One thing we haven't touched on yet is that it's low acid. Explain why that makes it a healthier cup of coffee.
So one of the things that is people age, coffee, since it's acidic by nature, starts to give people acid reflux or bloat them or hurts their stomach, they have digestive issues. So for us, it's really important. It actually happened by accident. I noticed that when I drank it, like I wouldn't have the stomach issues that normal coffee would give me. And then I would get tons, like daily, just testimonials from other customers that would tell us that. So we started testing the pH and realized that our coffee is a lower acid coffee compared to a lot of other brands.
All right, and I know that you test for a lot of things to make sure that, like you said, these are clean beans. This Inc. magazine award, they called you an economic all-star of the Midwest with your 9,000% revenue growth in just a 2-year period. How did your company achieve that?
Honestly, it came down to focus. Entrepreneurial trap, you run a bunch of multiple businesses. Me and my partner decided just to really focus on this. We focus on D2C only from our website. We didn't focus on retail. And at that time, we did not focus on Amazon either. And we were only focusing on our signature roasts. we also focus on customers first. That's honestly our secret sauce, is just putting customers first, just taking care of them. I always tell my team that we're a yes company, do whatever it takes to keep our customers happy. We want them to come back, and they love our product. And I think that's really the secret sauce behind it.
And we mentioned how it's healthier for the coffee drinker. I know another big focus of your company is making it healthier for the planet. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's for us, we separate it into 3 categories. We call it people, environment, and wildlife. So we focus on farming sustainably. We're corporate sponsors of the Rainforest Trust. We are also building schools in the regions where the coffee farms are located. And we donate thousands of bags to first responders. Those are kind of our passions.
And I think every entrepreneur has stories of hard knocks along the way. I think you faced a really pivotal moment back in, I think it was 2018, where you said you almost threw in the towel. So tell us sort of what happened and how you kept charging on.
Yeah, so the small farm in Nicaragua that I mentioned that was taking my supplements that we were getting the coffee from, they actually got in a family fight, so they split. So operations went one way, coffee went the other, and I had a moment to make a decision. Do we keep going or do we stop? Luckily, we had so many customers that just kept begging for the coffee that it pushed us forward to keep going, and we worked it out. We found some other suppliers. We created a checklist called Trust Pure that allows us to go to any country and find the cleanest beans.
All right. Well, we don't have time to talk about it, but I know you're selling online now, expected to perhaps expand into some retail soon. So congratulations on your growth and keep us posted.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Solar Power is energizing a small Wabash Valley high school. The move is bringing benefits to the school district's bottom line and potential career opportunities for its students. MSK of Shakamak Superintendent Jeff Gambill joined us with more in our Eye on Education segment.
I know just over your shoulder there we see the solar array that are you energizing it, getting it online? Is it this weekend?
Yes, tomorrow we're supposed to have a shutdown by Duke Energy, and during that we'll be connecting with the power grid, and it'll take about a week or so for Verigy to tweak the system, so to speak, and we should be good to go in about a week.
Talk about how this whole idea came about to use solar to really energize, if you will, the high school there, and also garner some cost savings.
Well, about 2 years ago is when we started kicking the idea around to try to have some kind of cost savings for our school corporation. We needed something that would bolster our operations funds, and so we toyed around with the idea and decided to explore it. The former superintendent, Nick Carazia, and I worked together on that, and we approached Johnson Mello with the idea. We sold it to the community, had a lot of information and transparency with them. Johnson Mello came and did presentations to the community, and that's how we got it started.
Well, was there any pushback or any concern at all in the community about the solar array?
No, I think the community has embraced the idea, as well as our school board, and we see the savings and that they're guaranteed. And so that's a big selling factor. I know that in the last 20 years, some schools have gone to solar arrays and there's been issues with funding. But as we've gone forward, the process has gotten better, and the solar arrays and solar fields are cheaper to install now. And I think people are realizing the savings.
Well, let's talk about the savings, because they are real. And as you say, they're guaranteed. Talk about these projected savings and where that money's going to go, or those savings are going to go.
Okay. The first year, we're guaranteed over $70,000 in savings, and each year that goes up incrementally. So that if we don't realize those savings, then Verigy will take care of that or compensate us for that. but the savings go up every year. By the 12th year, we'll have realize over $1 million in guaranteed savings. And that will initially go toward our operations funds. If you're familiar with the way school funding works, there's usually two pools of money. Your education fund, which takes care of the school, and your operations funds, which takes care of paying the bills, your buses, your custodians, and running the school.
Yeah.
And typically small school corporations like us, we don't have a whole lot of operations funds. And so you have to transfer money from your education fund over to that. $70,000 a year is 10% of our operations funds. So that's 10% of that money that we don't have to transfer over, and that's savings that we'll realize in our education.
That is substantial. Hey, we've only got about 20 seconds, Jeff, but there's a student component, an education component to this whole plan as well.
Absolutely. Part of the agreement with Verigy is that they provide us with curriculum for solar energy, and that's vocational classes that we can add in. The students will actually have the solar field in our backyard so that they can look at, work with, and there will be people here from Verigy who will maintain the field. And so it's something that we can add to our curriculum as learning about green energy.
Very good. Innovation at a school system in the Wabash Valley. Jeff Gamble is the superintendent of schools there in Shakamak. And Jeff, thanks for joining us from Jasonville, and good luck with the project.
A Pacers Hall of Famer took to the court to send off another Pacers legend into retirement. Longtime media relations director David Benner shared a memorable moment with Reggie Miller. Benner spoke with his brother Bill Benner about that and his impressive career on Inside Indiana Sports.
You've had a lot of notoriety associated with your with your final time. 28 years. How does it feel?
A little bittersweet, because you hope that maybe the last year you go out, in the playoffs or in a playing game, but we had a variety of injuries and COVID-related things, and it just didn't work out. But that said, the 28 years as a whole have been great.
April 3rd, the next to last home game recently, they had a wonderful salute to you, punctuated by a surprise visit, very much a surprise visit, from none other than number 31, the Hall of Famer Reggie Miller. That had to be incredibly special.
It was a total shock. They present me with the jersey, and so you're out there at center court and you're doing the wave and all that, and then I'll turn around to the crowd behind you. You turn around, all of a sudden there's Reggie, and I went, oh my God, because it was a total stunner to me. I was going to text him and say, I can't believe we went through a whole year without seeing each other. And then the next thing you know, there he is. And like I said, I was just totally stunned.
Well, and you reenacted the ritual. And for those that don't know, Reggie and David, during Reggie's incredible heyday and the Pacers, Hicks versus Knicks and the Bulls and the trip to the NBA Finals, but you had a ritual that preceded every game where you would get animated with one another.
It started off innocent, where he just wanted a sip of the drink, and he had a good game and we won. And then that started that. And then one time he held me up. He didn't come and get the drink, so I cussed him out. And he had a good game and we won. And so that started the whole wagging thing. But at least I had time to prepare for it. He would just come back and curse me out every time.
You've done a tour. In your final season, you've kind of done a tour of various NBA cities that have been a part of your life for the last 28 years. And many of those stops, they presented you with something. And one of the special ones, David, and you have it here with you, you got a piece of the parquet floor from Boston Garden. I mean, that is special.
Yeah, it was, the tour started off, it was my wife's idea to do something on Twitter. And so I would try to find a guest at each stop, and Damian Lillard in Portland, who was great, Jonas Valanciunas down in New Orleans, who was great. And I go to Boston, I'm toward the end of the season not sure what to expect, and then Jeff Twist, one of my mentors and my counterpart in PR there, they take me back to the press room, for the pregame meal or whatever, and then they present me with this. We get on the plane to come back. And Rick Carlisle, our coach, says to me, he goes, that's a big deal. And I go, yeah, I know that's a big deal.
That is a big deal. David, just talk about your most memorable moments. 28 years, and again, NBA Finals and a lot of great playoff moments.
The best was winning the Eastern Conference Championship in New York City. I mean, that topped it. The fact that we disposed of the evil Knicks, and then you're finally going to the NBA Finals after the 2 previous years being relatively close. That was the number one highlight. The number 2 highlight was going to the finals, even though we didn't win, but to experience that and to have a chance at winning a championship. But unfortunately, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant had something to say about that. I think a third one that's way back in the past. My first year here was the Michael Jordan return game.
Right.
And I told many people, it was like David Stern called you up and said, hey, you got 24 hours to put on an NBA Finals game. And that was in Market Square Arena. And that was, the amount of credentials that we handed out that day. All you could do was promise a credential, but not a seat. That was special. And we won the game, which was even better.
Quickly, as we wrap up, I know you're very, very proud of your staff. You won twice.
Won 2 PR Staff of the Year awards. Extremely proud of that, which meant that everybody chipped in, everybody did their job, and we were recognized for it, and it was much appreciated. And I just still got the trophies up in the office.
Well, David, I'm extremely proud of you, both as a professional and certainly as my brother. And we wish you all the best as you move into retirement. So thanks for being on with us.
Thanks, Bill.
The approaching summer season and a cautious return to more in-person events means a packed slate of concerts is coming to Central Indiana. Reporter Dave Lindquist with our partners at the IBJ joined us to break it all down.
Dave, welcome. And I guess I mentioned it in the intro there, but after 2 tough summers because of the pandemic, this promises to be a big year for concerts.
I hate to say unprecedented, but this is like nothing anyone has seen. Surely one of the factors is the pandemic. If you're a musician who's ever had a hit record and you can scrape together a live show, you want to work this summer and there's work for you. Another thing that is interesting is that there are at least 3 venues in Central Indiana that did not exist more or less before 2020. Holiday Park has a series called Rock the Ruins. It was started by the people who own the Vogue. They have 14 shows this summer. Wow. Down in Fountain Square, the Hi-Fi Annex has more than 20. And really, while the TCU Amphitheater in White River State Park is essentially the same footprint as the old lawn at White River State Park, before it became a permanent seating and a shed over the seats, they were doing about 20 shows a summer. This year, they're going to have more than 40.
Wow. Interesting perspective. Okay, Dave, now if you had to pick 1 or 2 of these concerts to attend this summer, which ones would they be?
Well, I always like to see things that haven't been through, and there's a great pairing of 2 icons in music, I feel, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. They put out a record back in, 2007. They didn't come through Central Indiana. They put out another record recently, and they are playing the TCU Amphitheater in June. It's a tough ticket, though.
Interesting. Gotcha. Yeah, I bet it will be a tough ticket. Hey, one more item, Dave. The Indiana State Fair announced late in the week the theme for this year's fair, Indiana's Automotive Excellence.
Yes. In years past, they've selected something in the agricultural realm. This year, they're going to lean on Indiana's automotive history. I think you're going to see some classic car collections at the fairgrounds. They're going to bring some cars you might recognize from pop culture. They haven't named exactly what they're going to have, but beyond the century plus at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the race, there are companies that long predate you and me, Gary, but names like Studebaker and Duesenberg and Stutz were big Indiana companies.
Absolutely. Used to be Little Detroit here in Indianapolis. You're exactly right. Hey, Dave Lindquist, as always, great perspective on some great stories that'll be in the IBJ this weekend. Appreciate the time, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
And finally this week, our insiders take on Indiana's top business stories. This week's panel includes Indy Chamber Vice President Portia Bailey Bernard, Bose Public Affairs Group Principal Victor P. Smith, and Gregory and Appel Insurance Vice President Steve Appel.
We begin with kind of the big story, I guess, of the week. And Victor, in terms of getting it out front to Europe, Elanco is a client of yours, so you have that relationship. But I'll begin with you. $100 million corporate campus, a lot of elements to this story related to Elanco, related to Indianapolis, Indiana. Put in perspective, in your view, how substantial, how big is this announcement?
It's a major announcement, Gary. Jeff Simmons is really a visionary. At the groundbreaking, he talked about the building as not as a noun, but as a verb, because he's building something. And what they're building is not only the first post-COVID headquarters destination for their employees, but they're building a whole new momentum of innovation for their clients and for their customers, for vets, for pet owners. And I think this also is the follow-on. It's going to be drawing all kinds of new technologies and new companies and spin-offs, including the Biomedit that just spun off on Monday, Aaron Schacht, who was formerly with Elanco. I think that's just indicative of a new center of gravity for the animal health world. Yeah, and Portia, I know the Indy Chamber responded initially to the RFP on this deal, so you've seen it up close and personal. As you look at the impact, big for Elanco, obviously, but how about for Indianapolis? How about for downtown Indianapolis, extending really across the White River?
I mean, this is huge. As you all know, that the former GM stamping plant has remained vacant for 11 years now. So the city, the state, the community, we've been waiting for something to happen. I mean, the investment that Elanco is going to make is just tremendous. They're bringing 1,000 high-paying jobs to our community. And with that, too, the public infrastructure improvements that the city will be making and connecting downtown and Elanco via a bridge by Henry Street that'll serve not only pedestrians but vehicles as well. There's also going to be the expansion of White River State Park, which is all part of the White River Vision Plan. So this is tremendous for the city and tremendous for the state. Yeah, Steve, your take on this and how substantial it can be longer term for Indianapolis and central Indiana.
Well, when I think of like major cities, besides how many pro sports teams do you have is how many corporate headquarters do you have, and as Portia mentioned, the corporate talent, what it has effect on real estate, local schools, and it's a very exciting. And Elanco is kind of a little bit under the radar now, I think, locally, but I project in the future it'll be kind of like Lilly and Salesforce, and Elanco will be more roll off the tongues of local people. Yeah. The last thing I'd say too is that it brings the Valley neighborhood and ignites that whole west side of the water. The other thing is, don't forget, there's 45 acres left on that campus that hasn't been yet developed, and I know that's going to ignite a lot of interest in drawing other companies, maybe other corporate headquarters there as well. How about this whole concept? And Jeff Simmons talked a little bit about it, the Silicon Valley of animal health, and creating, from Purdue down here and south. When you look at Corteva, Elanco, obviously, and the assets that are here now, and creating something that can be a recognized area, just like Silicon Valley or Research Triangle Park here in Indianapolis. Well, I think that's true, and again, the first evidence of that we've seen is the Biomedit spinoff. I know Scott Dorsey and his group are scratching their heads and working together with Agronovis and with some of the other folks, the leadership at Elanco, to see what can we do to continue to draw that technology here to claim this as the new epicenter of animal health in the world. Yeah. And if you think Purdue can also, with their agricultural ties too, it's just a lot of fits for Indiana. A lot of assets in place. We held inside Indiana Business and the IBJ our first Engage Indiana event outside of central Indiana. This one this week in Evansville, a crowd of 350 people, business community leaders, big panel discussion talking about big issues in the region, how they are dealing with those issues. One issue is the loss of air service. And Portia, I'd start off with you on this, but Evansville has lost air service to Chicago and Detroit, two really important markets, especially for them with the companies they have down there. How important is that, and what can be done to kind of get the service back, working with local entities? Yeah, I mean, we work closely with the Indianapolis International Airport, and I mean, COVID took a tremendous hit on the airline industry, and business travel was such a key component to it. And what really is going to help travel get back is companies getting comfortable traveling again. So we're starting to see restrictions lift and employers are allowing their employees to travel. I think that's going to really start
getting us going in the right direction in terms of picking up air service again.
Yeah, and connectivity is so important, as you know, not only for the business community but for the city itself. I think if you remember just a few years back, the IEDC began to get in that space a little bit when it attracted the nonstop San Francisco flights to Indianapolis. I think the IDC tools, I have faith in Brad and his leadership and the governor that they're probably already having those conversations to see what it is that they can do in a post-COVID world when things come back, when the industry comes back, what we can do to make sure that service is brought back.
Another story this week, the continued expansion of healthcare really throughout Indiana, but here in central Indiana, IU Health announcing plans to really dramatically grow its footprint in Fishers at the Saxony development, changing the name to IU Health Fishers and increasing the employment there, 50%, $287 million investment, so a lot of money. Of course, they're building essentially, one or two new hospitals in downtown Indianapolis as well.
So, well, full disclosure, Gregory and Appel's office is literally in ground zero of their $1.6 billion expansion right now. So it sort of looks almost like a war zone in a good way. But the Fishers is growing so much that it makes sense that there's probably a need out there. And I will chuckle, though, with 287 out there and 1.6 here is a lot of money in healthcare, isn't there?
There is a lot of money, yes. Good for the construction folks as well. A couple of moves of note, if you will, on the personnel side, and that there's a new leadership change, a new president at Indiana Black Expo, also a new head at TechPoint. Portia, I'll start with you. Alice Watson taking over at Black Expo. Talk about, first of all, the importance of that organization, but also this leadership change.
I mean, this is great. IBE serves the community, and they just do so much in terms of education and economic advancement. Tanya's done a great job in laying the groundwork and really building a strong foundation for IBE. But new leadership is exciting. With that comes new ideas and innovative changes. I have some of my greatest memories attending summer celebration, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize, but every year, the summer celebration brings 100,000 visitors to Indianapolis, which generates roughly $11.6 million in economic activity, which is just amazing. I'm also pumped because the free concert is actually coming back downtown this year, and the queen, the legend herself, Miss Patti LaBelle, is headlining this year, so you will see me there. But congratulations to Alice Watson. I wish her nothing but the best in continuing the great work that IBE does.
Yeah, and as you say, this is an important year for Black Expo because folks are coming back downtown, which is great. Also on the technology side, I'll throw it to you on this, Victor. Ting Goody, been at Elevate Ventures, involved in the venture world here, certainly is the new CEO taking over for Mike Langelier, who's led the organization for a number of years.
What a great call. I mean, I've known Ting for a decade. Had the great privilege of working with her when she was at Elevate for so long. We traveled internationally trying to chase companies together and as part of a delegation. So clearly capable. It's a perfect fit for so many reasons. So Godspeed to her. It's a great match.
Yeah. Hey, one other interesting, a mixed-use development that was announced. Those happen all the time. This one, though, in Tipton County, just off US 31. So some of these smaller communities are really connecting with mixed-use development, housing such a big issue around the state of Indiana.
I think it's a good trend that you're seeing because of what one possibly positive of COVID was you can live anywhere potentially and do your job. And so some people are looking to get out of the cities and have a little more space, and that might be a new trend that Indiana could also capitalize on.
Okay, we always like to try to end up on something sports or sports related. Sports books continue to do very well. Obviously March Madness, a big chunk of that, but almost $500 million in wagering at the sports books.
It's hard, as a 50% year over year growth, which with it being available on your phone, it's kind of dangerous for many out there. But the demand was clearly there.
Is it really available on your phone? Victor, I'll give you the last word. What do you think of the sports books? I mean, Indiana was one of the leaders, too, one of the first states.
It brings an industry that was kind of a black market industry into the light. So from a consumer protection standpoint, I think there's probably some positive things that go along with that. And let's not look beyond the state revenue additions. I mean, it provides the state with so many different additional resources to do good, I hope.
Very good. Victor Smith, Portia Bailey Bernard, Steve Appel, thank you one and all for being on The Insiders.
Thank you.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.